Hello everyone, this is Xiao Zhizi. This is a patchwork style Ola flower motif vest, made with Morandi. This yarn is relatively thick, a coarse knitting yarn for outerwear, with some colors featuring a fox tweed effect, and lots of color variations. So for this design, I've created two different color schemes, one in darker tones, more suitable for fall and winter, and another in lighter tones, perfect for spring. The tools you'll need are very simple: straight needles, scissors, and a sewing needle. This garment is worked flat from the bottom up, then the diagonal edges are sewn together, and finally stitches are picked up along the neckline and armholes on both sides. Overall, it's quite simple. The challenge lies in working the various crochet stitches of the Ola flower pattern, and handling the multiple colors, because it involves joining many color blocks together. When switching colors, how do you manage the yarn tension, and carry the unused yarn? If you've never knitted a garment that requires seaming before, then the third challenge will be the sewing together of the pieces. Overall, it's pretty straightforward, as long as you follow my tutorial step by step, understand the chart, and knit row by row according to the pattern chart, you'll get it done. Also, I created the chart using knitting chart software. If you'd like to knit this piece along with me, I'll share the original chart file with everyone. If you own this software, you can use its tool to go row by row. Just swipe up after completing each row, which makes following the chart much more convenient. In addition, I've drawn a full chart for the entire garment, including complete charts for both the front body and back body. Only the neckline and armholes don't have charts, so as long as you follow this chart row by row, you won't run into any issues. Now, let's start knitting. First step, we'll begin with the hem of the garment. The hem uses a single rib cast-on method, specifically, the common long tail cast-on, also known as the thumb or finger wrap cast-on. According to the chart, you need to cast on 111 stitches, then work in single rib with 2 knit stitches on each side. This is very simple, but since some of you might be beginners, I'm starting from the very beginning with casting on. First, take out your yarn ball, and pull some yarn. We're making a garment that's about 50 centimeters wide horizontally, meaning the full bust measurement will be around 100 centimeters. So we first take a yarn tail about 50 centimeters long, and fold it into 3 sections. Folding it into roughly 3 parts, 3 times the chest width, gives us around 1.5 meters of yarn. This yarn will be used for casting on and sewing later. First, let's make a knot by forming a loop like this. Pay attention, the yarn tail should be on top, and the working yarn below. Then pull the tail end through this loop. Now we've made a knot, and remember, the moving strand is always on the tail side. Next, take your 4.5 mm straight needle, and insert it into this loop. Also note, the moving side should be on top. The non-moving side stays underneath. Hold both strands in your hand, then insert your thumb and index finger into the loop, spreading them apart. At this point, the strand on your thumb side is the moving one, the tail side, while the strand on your index finger side connects to the ball of yarn. Then stretch it up like a slingshot. Once stretched, we begin casting on. The first loop formed at the front is our first stitch. Next, go under and around the thumb strand from the outside. Then reach down through the inside of the index finger loop, hook that yarn, and pull it through onto the needle. Release your thumb. Pull tight the loop. Let's do it again. Pick up the thumb strand from below, going upwards. Then pick up the inner strand of the index finger from above, pulling downwards. Pull the loop through, then release the thumb. Pull tight the loop. Let's do it again. Pick up the loop from under the thumb, going upwards. Then pick down the loop from the inside of the index finger, pull it onto the needle, and release the thumb. Tighten the loop. Now we've cast on 4 stitches. Continue casting on until you have 111 stitches. We'll speed this up a bit. Now we've finished casting on all 111 stitches, and this cast on row is considered the first row. That means when following the pattern chart, the next row will be the start of the second row. Also note that for the first row, we work from right to left. The second row is worked from left to right. Also, the symbols shown on the chart are what you see on the right side rows. When working even-numbered rows, like the second, fourth, and so on, which are wrong side rows, you knit the opposite stitches, purl where it looks like a knit stitch, and knit where it looks like a purl stitch. Now let's start knitting. The first 2 stitches are knit stitches on the chart, but since this is a wrong side, even, row, we'll work them as 2 purl stitches. Every edge stitch should be knitted, do not slip them. Because if you slip them, there will be a missing strand when sewing up later. So for garments worked flat that need to be sewn together, every edge stitch must be worked properly. Now continue. Just finished 2 knit stitches, which were worked as purl stitches on the wrong side. The next stitch is a purl stitch on the chart, so on this wrong side row, we'll work it as a knit stitch. Another purl stitch. When purling, bring the yarn over to the front. Insert the needle, yarn over from back to front. For a knit stitch, the yarn stays in the back. Yarn over from front to back. When purling, always yarn over from back to front. When knitting, always yarn over from front to back. Purl stitch, yarn in front, insert hook from front to back, yarn over from back to front, pull through, then proceed to knit stitch. The middle part is simple, just alternate 1 purl, 1 knit, and keep going. And remember, after finishing a purl stitch, and switching to a knit stitch, make sure to bring the yarn to the back, otherwise, you'll accidentally make a yarn over increase. At the last 2 stitches of the chart, they appear as 2 knit stitches on the right side, so on the wrong side, we'll work them as 2 purl stitches. That's it, row 1 and row 2 are now complete. Row 3 is very simple, work from right to left, starting from the right side of our piece, and just knit each stitch as it appears. Make sure to work both the first and last stitch of each row. The last 2 stitches are both knit stitches, work them both. 1 stitch, 2 stitches. Now we've completed 12 rows, and next comes the pattern section. The chart shows this more clearly. The far left section is a single rib and seed stitch crossing pattern, and the middle has 3 symmetrical cables. The yellow part represents a tree-like shape with a round, ball-like form. Then here are 3 leaves, followed by a 2-stitch moss stitch, and the first one is shade number 8, a watery blue. First, we need to cut the yarn from the single rib section, not too long, otherwise it'll get tangled with other color tails later, which makes knitting less convenient. Then, we should roll up and wrap the left side yarn tail like this, so it won't interfere with our next stitches. Getting tangled would be a hassle. You can use a stitch marker to secure it in place. Next, we'll begin knitting from the right side row, the 13th row. First, let's take out all the colors we'll need. We'll start with the first color. According to the chart, it's a rib crossing pattern, 2 knit stitches, 1 purl stitch, 1 knit stitch. Where they intersect here, all are purl stitches, the blank spaces mean purl, the trunk is knit, then we'll use pea green for the symmetrical cables. So now, let's use this blue to knit the single rib and seed stitch crossing on the far left. Let's look at row 13, insert the needle into the first stitch and start knitting directly. No, not needed, because this area will be sewn later, the yarn tail will naturally be secured inside during sewing. The second stitch is also a knit, give it a slight tug. After 2 knits, it's purl, knit, crossing. Start with the purl, then knit, purl, knit. Remember, there are 18 stitches in total. The last 2 stitches are both purls. Next, bring the yarn to the back, then take out the second color. Place the yarn here, don't tie a knot. First, 2 purl stitches. Then 8 knit stitches. Here, just like before, gently tie a knot. Later on, we'll need to weave in this yarn tail. Here, we can tie a knot just like before. But since we'll continue knitting with this yarn, just make a loose knot so we can easily carry it up later. Just bring it up directly like this. The pattern is 2 purl stitches, 8 knit stitches, 1 purl, 8 knits, 1 purl, 8 knits, and then 2 purls. Now begin to continue, 1 purl stitch, then 8 knit stitches. Continue with 1 purl, 8 knit stitches. Now take a look, we have 2 purls, 8 knits, 1 purl, 8 knits, 1 purl, 8 knits, and finally 2 purls. At this point, color 2 is used up. Next is the yellow crossing branch. For the fruit motif, just like before, you can tuck the yarn behind. Tuck it behind the fabric, then start with 4 purl stitches, 1 knit stitch, and then 8 purl stitches. First stitch, purl, so 4 purls, then 1 knit stitch. This stitch is the center branch stitch, and below that is this blue part. This pattern is a leaf motif, it has 3 leaves staggered here. 7 purl stitches, then a twisted stitch. Repeat, 7 purls and 1 twisted stitch, 7 purls and 1 twisted stitch, that's the pattern. Still, keep the yarn tail tucked under this piece. Start with 7 purl stitches. Seven purl stitches, plus 1 twisted stitch. Seven purl stitches, 1 twisted stitch. Seven purl stitches, 1 twisted stitch. So that makes 1, 2, 3 twisted stitches, then another 7 purls. Finally, use color 3 to knit the garter stitch on the side. It's a total of 19 stitches. We'll still keep this yarn tail underneath, tucked in. Then work upwards, start with 1 purl stitch. Then 1 knit, 1 purl, 1 knit, 1 purl, 1 knit. Follow this pattern until the last 2 stitches, then knit both of the final 2 stitches. Next, we'll start row 14, which is the second row of the motif. First, the 2 garter stitch motifs on the left, the second row is the same as the first, so just knit what you see. The yarn was previously kept behind the fabric. Now we're working on the wrong side row. So we need to bring the yarn back to the front, meaning to the wrong side of the piece. Now, pay attention to this part. First, we need to tuck this yarn tail down underneath. Here, pay attention, we need to keep the blue yarn under the pink yarn, then bring it to the back. After bringing it to the back, start knitting the knit stitches here. On this row, just work each stitch as it appears, no leaf pattern yet. So when you meet a twisted stitch, simply work a purl twisted stitch. The first stitch is still a knit stitch. At this point, you can tug both yarns slightly. The crossing at the color change creates a secure join and prevents loose fabric. On this row, just follow the stitch pattern as it presents itself. Here's a twisted purl stitch, so work it as a twisted purl, pick up the back loop and purl it, so it looks twisted from the right side. Again, pick up the back loop and purl for a twisted purl stitch. Then continue to this position. First, bring the yarn you're pausing over the fabric, placing it on top of the yarn tail, and underneath the working yarn from the skein, so it sits between these two strands. Press it between these two strands, then carry it up, and to the back of the fabric. Actually, that means bringing it to the right side of the piece. Then knit one stitch. After completing this knit stitch, tidy up the yarn tail here. On this row, continue working each stitch as it appears, a purl stitch. Then 4 knit stitches. On the green section, still work each stitch as it appears, pull the yarn being held in reserve to the back, then place the active yarn between the tail and the yarn about to be worked. Bring the working yarn to the wrong side of the fabric, then knit this stitch. After the first stitch, adjust and tidy up these two yarns. This row is also work each stitch as it appears, 2 knit stitches, starting from the right side, then 2 purl stitches. Then you still need to bring the unused yarn to the front of the fabric. Since this is a wrong side row, just remember, carry the unused yarn across the back. And the yarn you're going to use should be brought to the right side to knit. It's the same as the previous row, just work each stitch as it appears. Bring it to the front, then start knitting the knit stitch. This row is now complete. Next, work the third row of the pattern, which is the 15th row overall. The blue section here remains unchanged, still work each stitch as it appears. After 2 purl stitches, carry this yarn to the back of the fabric. Then take the green yarn you'll be working with, remember, don't pull it too tight like a tail. Bring the green yarn over to the front and purl the next stitch. Pay attention to keep the crossing stitch slightly tighter, so the two colors come together neatly. Note, from here on, it's no longer, work each stitch as it appears, now we're working a cable stitch. Let's look at these 4 stitches, we need to cross the 2 left stitches with the 2 right ones. First, we'll knit these 2 stitches. Since they'll be on top, start by slipping the 2 left stitches onto the cable needle. Hold them in front while swapping positions. After swapping, knit the next 2 stitches, then knit the 2 from the cable needle, 4 knit stitches total. Now for this side, since it's symmetrical and the right 2 stitches go on top, we'll slip the 2 left loops purlwise onto the cable needle, and hold it to the back. Slip the 2 left loops to the back, then place the 2 right loops onto the left needle. Then knit the 2 stitches from the right needle, followed by the 2 from the cable needle. And that completes one symmetrical cable stitch. One spreads to the right, the other to the left, with a purl stitch in the middle, and finish with 2 more stitches. When working the right side row, after knitting this stitch, slide it down, and bring the next stitch up to the front. That's all there is to it, just move that stitch up. And remember, the yarn should make a crossing, just bring it up like that, very simple. Now let's look at the yellow section. This row is where we begin the flower pattern. The pattern involves crossing one stitch from the right with one from the left, knit the top stitch, purl the bottom one. First, tighten the yarn slightly and purl the first stitch. Now we move to the knit section. Cross these two stitches by swapping their positions. After crossing, knit the top stitch, then purl the bottom one, that completes the crossed stitch. Then continue with purl stitches for the rest. Here comes the swap again. When working the right side row, after knitting a stitch, pull the yarn down and bring the back strand up. It's that simple. This creates the crossing between the two fabric pieces. Just gently tighten the yarn as you go. Now look at this row. It's still the same as the one below, just knit what you see. After knitting, let it go down. Bring up the red yarn. Notice the first stitch now becomes a knit stitch. When knitting, you work it directly without moving the yarn forward, because you only move the yarn when preparing to purl. But here at the crossing, the first stitch is a knit, so we simply knit it from the back. Remember to pull the blue yarn tight. Now check this row. All the stitches here are the opposite of the row below. That means wherever you see a purl stitch, knit it. Wherever you see a knit stitch, purl it. When you see a purl stitch, knit it. When you see a purl stitch, knit it. Pay attention to the edge stitches. The ones for sewing should be knit stitches. Because the carried yarn between knit stitches is easier to see, making it more convenient for sewing later. We've now completed row 15. Row 16 in pink is exactly the same as row 15, just knit what you see. A purl stitch first, then a knit, a purl, and a knit. We're about to reach the color change spot. Since we're working on the wrong side now, all yarns should stay in front. Then move the blue yarn to the back. Now knit the knit stitch. Since the yarn for knit stitches should be at the back, after each cross stitch, remember to pull the yarn snug so the join stays flat. Let's continue to the next row. The 3-leaf motif in the middle of this row is the same as the previous row, just knit what you see. After knitting, bring the yarn to the front. Once it's in front, simply pull it over to the left side. Then when you need to knit with that yarn, it'll be on the right side. Just pick it up and go. Now pay attention here. I made a mistake earlier in the chart. We need to fix it. Because at the crossing point, all stitches are knit stitches. Since they look like knit stitches on the right side, on the wrong side we just purl them all. So again, knit what you see, keep bringing the yarn to the front, and move the green yarn for the center section upwards. Since we're knitting, bring the yarn to the back of the right needle. Knit the first stitch, and remember to pull the yarn from the slipped stitch after knitting. Then purl 8 stitches. Knit 1 stitch, purl 8 stitches. Knit 2 stitches, and again bring the yarn to the front of the workpiece. Pull this yarn to the back of the fabric. Begin knitting the knit stitches. Let's look at this row. It's the same as the previous one, just knit what you see. For row 17, check the far right side, same as last time, just knit what you see. The cable pattern in the middle also follows, knit what you see, but here it changes, it now crosses left and right, meaning the branch will split here. The 3-leaf motif remains unchanged, however, since we're back on a right side row, and the pattern shifts every 2 rows, these 2 rows of moss stitch need to change accordingly. The green area is finished, next is the yellow section. After finishing with the green yarn, move it to the back and bring the yellow yarn to the front. Make sure the yellow yarn goes under the green yarn so that when knitting, the 2 colors twist together, preventing visible holes between fabric pieces, or between different colors. Pull the yarn tight. Start by purling 3 stitches. Here we first purl 3 stitches, then the knit stitch on the left moves to the right, and the purl stitch on the right moves to the left. That means we swap the position of these 2 stitches. Swap the left and right stitches, with the left one ending up on top first, purl 1 stitch. Then knit 1 stitch. Then swap these 2 stitches again, still keeping the knit stitch on top and the purl stitch below. Because the protruding branch motif is entirely made of knit stitches, so whether shifting to the left or to the right, the knit stitch pattern must always stand out. Therefore, no matter if moving left or right, make sure the knit stitch of the pattern stays on top. Now continue with the remaining stitches. The pink section's pattern changes, it's different from the previous row, so it's completely reversed. Since we're purling, bring the yarn to the front, 1 purl stitch, then tighten the blue yarn a bit, followed by knit, purl, knit. This is how the pattern looks here. Next, we begin row 18, which is identical to row 17. So just knit each stitch as it appears. At this point, you can see that the carried yarn crosses over alternately, 1 round covers, then the next, and so on. It looks roughly like this, alternating left right as it goes upward. Then move the blue yarn to the front side. On row 18, the pattern changes. When viewed from the right side, all stitches are purl, so on the wrong side row we need to knit every stitch. Move the yarn to the back and knit all stitches, this creates what we call garter stitch. Knit all stitches except the edge stitch, since the edge stitch must remain a knit on the right side rows. Therefore, the last stitch should be purled. Turn to the right side to check. This row shows a row of purl stitches. plus the edge stitch and knit. Now we proceed to row 19. Row 19 is completely different from the rightmost blue stitch in row 18, so we need to work the opposite stitch. By the way, these rows are essentially garter stitch, meaning you just knit every row, no matter front or back. So for row 19, knit every stitch, including at the crossing point. After finishing the knit stitches, the yarn is already at the back, leave it there, and simply bring up the green yarn. When bringing it up, remember to keep it behind the blue yarn, make sure to cross it under so the connection stays tight. Now we begin knitting the green part. The cable section is the same as before, so I won't demonstrate it again. Note, 1 twisted stitch here becomes 3 twisted stitches, 1 twisted stitch on each side, meaning the center remains twisted, and both left and right also become twisted. On the wrong side, work the twisted stitch as a purl twisted stitch. Then comes the yellow part. We need to pay attention here, as we'll now start making little bobbles. First, 2 purl stitches, then 1 bobble, and then it starts branching out again, just like at the first branching point earlier. Let me explain how to make the bobble. The rest of the branch-like parts won't be explained in detail later. The bobbles shown are all made using the 1×5 method, picking up 5 loops from 1 stitch. I've finished 2 knit stitches. First, insert the hook and wrap once. Pull up a loop, but don't drop the original loop on the left needle. Wrap again and pull through another loop. Don't drop the loop on the left, wrap again, insert once more, then pull through. Only now let go of the original loop, meaning 1 loop has become 5 loops. Then turn your work. After turning, knit all 5 loops, and especially for the first one, make sure to pull tight. Work 5 purl stitches, they'll look like knit stitches on the right side. Continue knitting across this row as well. Remember to pull tight. Now it looks like this. Then we turn it over again, and continue knitting. Keep going with 5 more stitches. Turn again. Now we need to change the 5 loops back into 1, slip all 5 as knit stitches, then knit 1 stitch, and on the 5th stitch, knit it again, then pick up the first 4 slipped stitches over. This forms a nice round bump of 5 stitches. Now bring up the carried yarn from under this little bobble, and place it onto the needle. Then fold the bobble stitch over. After folding over, pull the loop tight. This gives us a neat, firm little bobble. After the next 4 purl stitches comes a crossed stitch. That means we'll cross these 2 stitches, while keeping in mind that this knit stitch stays on top. Keep the branch-like part always on top, and knit both of these stitches. This way, our single branch splits into 2 branches. Just like below, only I'm splitting it a bit higher up here. Just like this, forming 5 branches, there are 5 little bobbles in total. After knitting 5 knit stitches, we'll now begin the 3D twisted stitch leaf. First, a crossed stitch of twist and purl, then a twisted stitch, followed by another crossed stitch of twist and purl. The leaf has a diamond-shaped, outward expanding structure that spreads to both sides, so the twisted stitch always stays on top. Then after picking it up, pay attention to knitting the back loop, because it's a twisted stitch leaf, knit the back loop, and here make a purl stitch. Actually, that's just a twisted stitch. Here comes another crossed stitch, we still swap these 2 stitches first, then knit the purl stitch first. Then knit the twisted stitch behind. Let's take a look at the fabric. The twisted stitches are now spreading out to both sides. You can see the early shape of the leaf, and this row is different from the previous one. Just knit the opposite stitch of whatever you meet, knit stitch when you meet a purl, and purl stitch when you meet a knit. Now we'll knit row 22. For this row, the pink part is the same as the previous row. The blue part is also the same as before, where you twisted, twist again, where you purled, purl again. Same on this side too, except for the far right edge, which is in garter stitch, so knit every stitch there. Everywhere else, just knit the opposite of what you see. Next, we'll knit row 23. Let's look at the blue section on the far right. It starts changing now, beginning the same 1 times 1 rib as below. Then here we continue the cable twist, and here it starts branching out again. Now let's focus on the leaf area. The pink section continues with the seed stitch variation, switching every 2 rows. We'll simply knit through the front part of this row, then focus on how to knit the leaf section, arriving now at this small blue leaf. Since the chart can't show the symbol for twisted stitch decrease, 2 stitches into 1, the diagram here is actually incorrect. First, knit 4 purl stitches, then after that, work a twisted K2 tog. I need to combine this twisted stitch with the purl stitch next to it into a K2 tog, and make it look like a twisted stitch, so I'll swap the position of these 2 loops. First, switch the position of these 2 loops, then knit them together as 1 twisted stitch. That's a twisted K2 tog, followed by a purl stitch. Then comes a make 1 increase, we'll do a twisted M1 here like this. Pick up the carried yarn from behind to front. Then knit a twisted stitch. It's that simple, then use the left needle to pick up the carried strand from front to back. And knit a twisted stitch. That's the increase, then a purl stitch, and here again is a twisted K2 tog. But here, the twisted stitch is already in front and the purl stitch is in back, so no need to swap, they're already in position. Just knit them together as a twisted K2 tog directly. The tricky part of this pattern is that I added stitches in the middle. I increased 2 stitches, so I need to decrease on both sides. Why use this method to make the leaf spread out? Because I think the style where the leaf extends from the center base looks better than just growing straight out like this. So I'm using a technique with increases in the middle and decreases on both sides. Let's keep knitting downward, toward this leaf section. We've reached this side. Here's still a K2 tog, but it's a twisted K2 tog, that requires swapping the position of the stitches. Then 1 purl stitch. Next is a twisted make 1 increase, pick up from bottom to top. You can pick it up directly like this, but I prefer to first stretch it open with the right needle, then use the left needle to pick up from bottom to top. Then insert the needle to knit a twisted M1, in this case, pick from top to bottom and knit a twisted stitch. Then 1 purl stitch. 1 twisted K2 tog. Then knit the remaining 4 knit stitches. Bring the yarn to the back, then start working the pink section. Change the pattern every 2 rows, so here we begin knitting knit stitches again. On row 24, just knit as you see, work each stitch as it appears. Let's look at row 25, starting from the far left. The blue part is still work as it appears, the green part remains the same, knit as it shows, the yellow area still spreads out 1 branch to each side, and for the leaf section, all the leaf veins spread outward on both sides. Then in the pink section, we're again at the part where we change the stitch pattern, every 2 rows. Row 26 is the wrong side. Keep knitting straight through from pink all the way to the blue on the far right. Let's check the chart. The pink section here is still the same as the previous row, just knit as it appears. The blue part is the same, work as it appears, yellow also work, as it appears, green same too, and the outermost color also knit as it shows. Let's take a look at the chart for row 27. The blue on the far right is the same as the previous row, work as it appears, then the center starts cabbling again, on the right side of the tree, it continues branching, while on the left, we start knitting the small fruit. The leaf motif in the middle begins another split at the central vein. Here it's still a twisted stitch, this side continues straight down, and in the pink section, we're again changing the pattern every 2 rows. For row 27, just continue following the chart until it's completed. Now let's keep going. 1 stitch. 2 stitches. 3 stitches. Then a twisted stitch. Looking at the chart, first a twisted stitch, then a K2 tog. I've drawn it directly as K2 tog because there's no symbol for twisted K2 tog. Here it's actually a twisted K2 tog, then a purl stitch. Then here comes a twisted increase, a twisted stitch, another twisted increase, another purl stitch, a twisted K2 tog, and a twisted stitch. Let's do it step by step. First stitch is a twisted stitch. Next is the twisted K2 tog. Since the twisted stitch needs to be on top here, I'll swap, the position of this twisted stitch with the purl stitch on the right, then work a twisted K2 tog, insert from below, and knit the twisted K2 tog, then 1 purl stitch. Pick up the twisted stitch from below, and upwards. Knit 1 twisted increase. Pick up and knit a twisted increase, from below, then 1 twisted stitch, here pick from above downwards and knit a twisted stitch. Then 1 purl stitch, 1 twisted K2 tog, because the twisted stitch needs to stay on top. The twisted stitch is already on top here, so we just knit a twisted K2 tog directly. Then 1 twisted stitch. Up to this point, the increase section of this small leaf is finished, meaning the 2 most difficult rows are done. After this comes the crossing twisted stitch pattern, which is simpler. The entire piece only has this one pattern that's slightly more complex, everything else is quite straightforward. Just knit what you see. Since I've drawn the full chart for the whole garment, just follow what you see on the chart. The only thing to pay attention to is when you're knitting the wrong side. You should knit the opposite stitch of what's shown on the chart, most of the time it's simply knit what you see. Another tricky part is that every time you switch colors, you need to cross, and all edge stitches are knitted as knit stitches so that the carried yarn is easier to find during sewing. Because this knit stitch will be sewn into the garment no matter what stitch you use, so it doesn't matter which stitch you knit. I knit all of them as knit stitches just to make it convenient to find the carried yarn. Row 27 is finished. Now we move on to row 28. Row 28 is very simple, just knit what you see. The only thing to note is the outermost blue section, from the right side, except for the edge stitch, it's all purl stitches. So on the wrong side, we knit all knit stitches. And for the 5 rows of garter stitch, knit every stitch on every row, no matter the right or wrong side. For everything else, just knit what you see. From now until row 36, I won't repeat the demonstration for the middle section. Just follow the chart and knit what you see. Since all these stitch techniques have already been repeated earlier, the rest are just repeating the same steps, so there's no need to demonstrate again. We'll demonstrate how to decrease again at row 37. After finishing row 36, the leaf pattern is formed, and then we'll continue knitting the stem in the middle upward. If we don't knit the stem on the front, there will be a small bump here, which isn't very neat. Then we proceed with the split here, and after that, knit another cable twist group. Let's take a look at the chart for row 37. On row 37, starting from the right side, we begin decreasing. This is a decrease for the underarm armhole. First, bind off 6 stitches, then continue knitting down. We won't go over this part again as it's all the same. This pattern has been explained in detail before. On row 38, which is an even-numbered row, we decrease on the left side of the piece, also binding off 6 stitches. Now let's start knitting row 37, focusing on the decreasing section. First, knit the first stitch normally. The second stitch is also a knit stitch, then bring the yarn forward. Purl the third stitch. Bring the yarn over. For tuck-in stitches, just knit, or purl according to what you see. Now 3 stitches have been bound off. 4th stitch. Bring the yarn over. 5th stitch. Bring the yarn over. 6th stitch, bring the yarn over. Let's look at the stitch remaining on the right needle. It corresponds to this stitch in the chart. This is the stitch that hasn't been tucked in yet, but there's a yarn loop pulled over it. Don't get confused here. From now on, just follow the chart and knit single rib. Start knitting the middle leaf. First, a twisted 2 together. Remember to bring the leaf outline to the outside, that means placing the twisted stitch outward, then 2 together. Twisted 2 together, then 1 purl stitch. Then a twisted increase. First, pick up the left needle from bottom to top for a twisted stitch. Then another twisted stitch, followed by picking up the left needle from top to bottom for a twisted stitch. Then another purl stitch. Next is a twisted 2 together. Remember the outline should be on top, so simply knit 2 together directly. Then turn the work. Since this is an even numbered row, and the pattern changes on odd numbered rows, we just knit as we see. Bind off 1 stitch. Two stitches. 3 stitches. 4 stitches. 5 stitches. 6 stitches. That completes binding off 6 stitches. Then we just continue knitting according to what we see. If you're worried about making mistakes while decreasing, let's count the stitches now. There should be 13 stitches left on the needle. Let's count the pink stitches on the needle, exactly 13. Likewise, on the opposite side, where we just decreased, there are 12 stitches remaining. Let's check if there are indeed 12 on the needle. Then we continue knitting downward. Up to this point, cut the green yarn. Pay attention, don't leave the yarn tail too long, because this yarn is quite fuzzy and won't come loose easily, so there's no need to leave a very long tail. Leaving the yarn tail too long might interfere with the following knitting. Then move to the pattern at the far right of this row. It switches back to garter stitch, so knit every stitch on this row. Knit the last stitch as a purl. This makes the next decrease easier. At the same time, take out the green yarn. After completion, carry the yarn across. On the first stitch of row 39, slip the first stitch without knitting, and tighten it slightly. For the rest of this row, knit as the pattern requires. Since it's garter stitch, knit every stitch. Slipping one knit stitch counts as a decrease. Second stitch, third stitch. After doing this, the edge will form a smoother shape. When knitting the last stitch, try to pull it a bit tighter so that this side becomes slightly smaller. Then knit all stitches as knit stitches. Up to where we switch to the new color. The new color pattern is a honeycomb design. The first row consists of 1 knit stitch, followed by 8 purl stitches, 2 knit stitches, 8 purl stitches, 2 knit stitches, and 8 purl stitches. Repeat this sequence. So now let's start with the beginning row of the first row. The first stitch is a knit stitch. With the yarn under the needle, work the first stitch as a knit stitch. The following stitches are purl stitches. After knitting, it should look like this. Then in the middle here, you can pull the yarn tail a bit tighter. Don't worry about this side for now, we'll take care of this connection later, when we weave in the ends. After completing the 8 purl stitches in the middle, we'll start knitting the 2 knit stitches in the center. Still working knit stitches. Next, 8 purl stitches. At the edge where it connects to the yellow yarn, there's 1 knit stitch. Knit that stitch. The yarn tail is already at the back, so no need to adjust, just leave it at the back. Remember to adjust the position of your yarn ball. Bring in the yellow yarn. Adjust the yarn tail position correctly. On the yellow side, there's a crossing stitch and a bobble stitch. We won't demonstrate those again. The last stitch is worked as usual. Now we'll knit row 40. Turn the work. The first stitch is a purl stitch, slip it. Knit the second stitch. Because it's the wrong side, that way, 1 stitch has been slipped. 2 stitches slipped. 3 stitches slipped. We can see that this side is relatively flatter compared to the other side, so it's smoothed out. Then knit the rest as they appear, knit what you see. The last stitch, work it as a purl. It'll be easier to pick up on the wrong side. Now we proceed to row 41. Row 41 still has a 2-stitch decrease. The decreases are the same, first stitch slip without knitting, and this row remains in garter stitch pattern. Slip the first stitch without knitting. That way, 2 stitches have been decreased. We can see the armhole here goes straight upwards, but because it's in garter stitch pattern, it doesn't look very smooth. Continue knitting onward. There should be 7 stitches on your needle now. Next is this gray-purple color. This row still follows what was worked in the previous row, just continue accordingly. Knit, purl, knit, purl. At the last edge, knit the stitch. It's actually quite smooth here, unlike the bumpy look of garter stitch. Then we work row 42. Row 42 also requires a 2-stitch decrease. Note that in this chart, the black sections mean no stitches, and the small black dot next to it indicates a decrease. Here it's a slip stitch binding off 2 stitches. The first stitch is slipped purlwise without knitting. Since this is a wrong side row, knit as you see, so first knit 1 stitch. Decreased 1 stitch, then purl the next. 2 stitches decreased. After this, just continue knitting as you go, work each stitch as it appears. Finally reach the blue section. This row is still in garter stitch, so you'll knit all stitches except the edge stitch. The last stitch is purled. Then turn your work. Starting from this row, you'll begin decreasing with knit 2 together, knit 2 together. From now on, the decreases happen simultaneously on both sides. No more decreases on the wrong side, all decreases will be done on the right side. Let's demonstrate this side and at the same time explain the middle pattern. First, for the left side, knit 2 together, slip the first stitch purlwise. Then pass the slipped stitch over the knit stitch. This completes 1 decrease, a K2 tog. Continue following the chart for the rest. The garter stitch section we just finished is now complete, and after this, it switches back to single ribbing. Even though there aren't many stitches, keep the pattern neat and organized. Pay attention, here it's 2 single rib stitches. Then switch to this yarn. The stitch technique should be familiar from when we knitted the little tree earlier. It's a stitch swap between left and right, a right leaning cross. Move the right stitch onto the left needle first and purl it. This dot means purl 1 stitch, then knit 1 stitch. This completes 1 crossing. Then there are 6 stitches in the middle. Six purl stitches, followed by another crossing, the 2 knit stitches in the center cross, 1 moving to the right and 1 to the left. But since they're part of the pattern, both stitches stay on top. Knit the top stitch first. Same on this side. In this way, these two central knit stitches twist outward to both sides. Continue following this pattern until it's done. The tricky part is the first row. When setting up the pattern, once you find the rhythm, it gets easier. Swap these two stitches, knit the outer knit stitch first, then the inner purl stitch. Swap these two stitches, purl the inner stitch first, then knit the outer stitch. It now looks like this. The following rows are all the same. After finishing 6 purl stitches, there's another crossing stitch. Slip the knit stitch first, then place the back stitch onto the needle. This is how you make the crossed stitch. After finishing, switch to color 1, yellow. Now it's time to start making bobbles. Once the bobbles are done, the yellow pattern section is complete. Just work all right side rows and purl stitches. We've already explained how to knit bobbles many times before, so we won't repeat it here. When knitting bobbles, you can also use a smaller needle size to make them tighter and smaller. Since this is the right side row, the pattern of every 2 rows will shift again. So wherever we meet a purl stitch, we knit. Wherever we meet a knit stitch, we purl. Knit until 2 stitches before the end, then work a K2 tog. On row 44, no decreases are made on either end, just knit what you see. For the yellow section, all stitches are knit stitches. When viewed from the right side, they appear as purl stitches. Now pay attention, there's a tricky part here. This stitch is a bit difficult, and we'll explain it shortly. On this side, it's still single ribbing, just knit what you see. Okay, let's take a close look here. This stitch pattern is a little challenging because it's on the wrong side, meaning the stitch we work is the opposite of what's shown on the chart. Let's look at the first stitch. It shows a purl stitch on the chart, so on the wrong side we knit it. Next is a 3-stitch cross, with 1 stitch crossing over 2 purl stitches. That means we need to move this knit stitch over 2 purl stitches to that position. Therefore, on the wrong side, we pick up those 2 stitches, specifically, the 2 knit stitches behind the purl stitch. First, pick it up, then move this purl stitch to the left needle. Then slip these 2 stitches back onto the left needle to complete the crossing. From the right side, you should see that this knit stitch has crossed over the 2 purl stitches. After completing the crossing, just continue knitting as usual. Still, knit what you see, Since that crossed stitch is a knit stitch on the right side, we purl it on the wrong side. That's it, it's done. Then comes 2 purl stitches, so on the wrong side we work 2 knit stitches. Next, we again need to move this knit stitch over the 2 purl stitches to this position here. Move it all the way to the far left, or far right, spreading it out nicely. So first, we'll slip the knit stitch, as seen from the front, off, and place those 2 stitches onto the left needle. Then place this stitch onto the left needle, and let's take a look again. It now becomes 1 knit stitch crossing over these 2 purl stitches. On the wrong side, still knit what you see, a purl stitch, then 2 knit stitches. That's how it should look. The rest can just be worked following this same pattern until finished. Then knit the 2 middle stitches. Next comes another twist, first slip these 2 stitches, then move the back stitch to the left needle, switching their order. Then continue on. If there's any difficulty on the wrong side of this piece, it's only at this point. All other pattern parts on the wrong side are simply knit what you see. Only this row of the pattern requires a crossed stitch on the wrong side. After finishing, we're back to the rib stitch at the far right. Same as the previous row, just knit what you see. Now we begin row 45. On both sides of row 45, we'll still decrease by knitting 2 together. And here we'll have a crossed stitch, a 2-stitch cross, just cross the floating knit stitch with the one next to it. We'll start with the decrease on this side. For decreases on the right side, always slip 1 stitch, knit 1, then pass the slipped stitch over. The rest should be worked according to the pattern chart. Then we reach this motif. By now, you should be able to see the direction of the pattern. So continue with the crossed stitches, the purl stitch always stays underneath, same on this side too. Half of the honeycomb motif is complete, above it's just the same crossing pattern continuing in the opposite direction. Let's continue knitting until the end. Then cross these 2 stitches. When we get here, make another cross. On this row, whenever you meet a knit stitch, just cross it with the adjacent purl stitch, just pay attention to the direction. When there are only 2 stitches left, work a K2 tog. This creates a left-leaning K2 tog. The decrease at this spot is now complete. After this, we simply repeat the same steps as above, just decrease when you reach the decrease points. Note that on this side, you directly work a K2 tog, while on the right side of the piece, you slip 1, knit 1, then pass the slipped stitch over. That's the K2 tog, which I won't explain again. In the following row, only 4 colors remain, the 2 stitches at each side for armhole shaping, plus 1 pink and 1 blue. The blue is almost done too. Since we're back on an odd-numbered row, it's time to start decreasing again. On this row, above the ribbing, just knit as you see, same with this pattern, knit as the stitch presents. Then remember, over the yellow, you need to establish 3 knit stitches to set the pattern. Here again, knit as you see. Pay attention to these 2 crossed stitches, then finish with a decrease. The decreases next to it are all done by slipping 1, knitting 1, then passing the slipped stitch over. Then 1 knit stitch, 2 purl stitches. Bring up the pink yarn, and mindful of the cross here. Then 8 purl stitches. Next, 2 knit stitches, then 8 purl stitches, followed by 2 knit stitches, 8 purl stitches. Then 2 more knit stitches. Notice here it reaches onto the blue, then 1 knit stitch. Here you need to pay attention, this takes up 2 stitches of the blue. Then we bring the blue yarn up, you can cut the yarn tail, or leave it, doesn't make much difference. Then we start knitting from here. There's a K2 tog here, still a regular knitwise K2 tog, just knit 2 together as knit stitches. This kind of decrease creates a smooth transition. Now we continue to knit the next row. The next row is actually no different, just knit as you see, except on the edge here, where we start the garter stitch again, so just knit every stitch on both right side and wrong side rows. So we'll knit this part quickly, then once it's all garter stitch, just keep knitting every stitch. Except for the very last stitch. Now we continue to row 49, and row 49 has no changes at all. Except for the center leaf, here, instead of 3 twisted stitches, you only knit 1 twisted stitch, everything else stays the same, so I won't demonstrate it here. For the following rows, just follow the pattern chart as usual. We'll demonstrate again when we get to switching colors, that is, when we start knitting the leaf and the wavy, stream-like motif.